Hey, welcome back. It's louisatannermunson from Feel Good Astrology, and I'm doing now the horoscopes, i.e., the sign by sign forecast for the month of November 2023. Now, earlier you might have seen that I've already uploaded a video of my overall update for the whole of November. So I looked at it on a week by week basis, really pointing out the key aspects going on to get a real feel for what everybody is going through at the same time, the sort of energies. Like week one, I had little notes actually about what each week was about. I felt that week one was really, really challenging because there's some really big oppositions going on. Week two, I thought, was challenging for entirely other reasons. For instance, there was this really strong Uranus and Mars opposition, followed by the new moon on the 13th in the sign of Scorpio. So that's a really, really big time. Week three, we've got like the 18th is insane, with Mars in an exact conjunction with the sun at the same time that the moon is in a conjunction with Pluto. And then in week four, we've also got the full moon, which is another absolutely crazy, intense and insane time. Just want to, before I get going, is say hello to the lovely Jasmina Brozovic. Hi, how are you? I can't wait to join you on your show on the 31st of October. So please do, if you haven't already signed up to follow or subscribe Jasmine, and then please do. Her details are just below. You'll see them in the show notes. I really can't wait for that, Jasmina. Thank you so much for joining me. I've got Shannon here joining me from Texas as well. Howdy, how are you? It's really nice to catch a few people on a live. Now, I'm not sure how much interaction I'm going to have to say hi to people, although I've got Makeup Therapy joining me now as well. Hi. It's lovely getting some new names as well. Obviously, I'm going to try and motor through all of these star signs, and I've got an appointment in an hour and 3/4, so I'm going to have to really put my foot down. But anyway, yeah, I've looked at all 4 weeks on a week by week basis in another video in the November playlist. This is about exploring each star sign. Now, if you happen to know your ascendant, which I'm guessing you guys are really, like, most of the people that follow me are really, really well, like they know loads about astrology. So I'm guessing you know your ascendant. I would choose to listen to the horoscope, the star sign to do with your ascendant. You're going to get a much better idea of your month ahead based on that. That's how I'm basing my forecast. Though I do see that there is also resonance if you listen to the sun sign. I do hear from people who listen to the moon sign. What I would say is, if you want an idea on your outlook, then really listen to the ascendant, like whatever sign your ascendant is on. Like mine's in Scorpio, so I would pay greater attention to Scorpio. My son's in the sign of Sagittarius. Now, if I'm looking at the kind of impact I might have on, like the times might have on my personality, I might choose to listen to the Sagittarius one. I always, as I'm reading both out, or kind of channeling and looking at the astrology of both of those, I often feel a really strong resonance for what's going on for me. And similarly, from a spiritual perspective or from an emotional, psychic perspective, you might also find some relevance with your moon sign as well. So just to let you know that, just trying to think if there's anything else to really say. No, I don't think there is. I think I've just got to crack on and give this a go. If you do have any questions, then please do feel free to drop them in. If I get a chance to answer them, I will. I am going to be checking periodically between my little spreadsheet with all the little planets and stuff on and the chat room. So wish me luck. This is quite an undertaking. So anyway, let's have a look for Aries. So again, I am talking as if this is the ascendant, but if you want to read it as if it's your sun, then feel free. So what I'm looking at for Aries, now what you'll see is I've broken down a chart. So for instance, if you've got Aries, your first house is in Aries, then this is where you'll find all the other bits. So for instance, the sun is moving in between Scorpio and Sagittarius from around about 8 to 7 or 8 degrees of each sign. We've got the new moon on the 13th of November at 20 degrees in Scorpio. It's also in a conjunction with Mars, so I'll be talking about that in a minute. We've got the full moon in Gemini down here. You'll see around the 27th of November, according to where you are in the world. That's at 4 degrees in Gemini. Then I've put in a couple of little aide-memoires. It's just to help me know where I'm going. But I think this area here between Pluto and Saturn really represents where you might need a little bit more support in this month ahead. The reason I say that is there's a lot of T-squares. And if you listen to my overall forecast, you'll hear that there's T-squares to Saturn pretty much, a lot of the month. For instance, Saturn is going to be making uncomfortable squares with Mercury, with the Sun, with Mars. Saturn is particularly strong in a very strong T-square at the time of the full moon, right at the end of the month on the 27th. So, Saturn, anything around the area of where Saturn falls in your chart is going to bring up a certain amount of restrictions and soreness. And similarly, Pluto is still in this really long T-square with the nodes, which are here pretty much. So I think this whole area that sort of exists in our chart represents a place for us to focus a little bit more. So, and the final thing that I'm going to be pointing out is where we might be worthy, where we need to remember that we're worthy, where we need to remember, just how supported we are. We've got a lovely aspect at the end of the month from the 22nd to the 30th of November, where Venus is in a conjunction with the South Node. So I'm just putting it out there that as I look at each separate sign, I'm going to be commenting on all of these different positions, as well as your ruling planet, to give you a really good overview. So anyway, let's get started now with Aries. So the sign of Aries then, oh, hang on, just before I start, let me just say hello to Nubianette. Hey there, I was just listening because I'm working and I'm just listening to your last video. I love it when I hear that people are sneaking off work or listening on their lunch break. I think that's great. But thanks for joining me, Nubianette. I hope you don't get in any trouble. I don't suppose you will. Right, let's crack on with Aries then. Right. So the first thing I think to focus on, Aries, for you in this month ahead is really that you're moving from the 8th house expression into a 9th house, and that your ruling planet, which is Mars, is pretty big business in this month ahead. I have to say, if there was a planet that really gets a lot of attention in this month ahead, it's Mars. Mars is like the star. I mean, on the 13th, on the day of the new moon, which is at 20 degrees in the sign of Scorpio, Mars is exactly conjunct the sun and the moon, or pretty much exactly, just a degree off. And Mars and the sun and the moon are absolutely in opposition with Uranus. So there's this real sort of tightness and energy and a lot of explosives, I would say. We are feeling a little bit fraught at the moment, aren't we, Aries? And there is also this crackling energy for you available this month. I really think it's a strong time. Now, for those of you that have a lot going on in your 8th house, the 8th house is often seen as a difficult house. It's not an easy one. It covers all things to do with like birth, life, death, all the life cycle stuff. It's very much about rites of passage, but I also think it captures shame, blame, guilt, and anger, and all those value systems that other people put on you. So I do think this is going to be a month where you're going to be working through a lot of old rubbish, a lot of old crap, and it might feel a bit uncomfortable. However, you do seem to have a really lovely resonance with the sign of Scorpio. I think you can actually create a lot of magic around this time. And then as the month progresses, Mars will go into the sign of Sagittarius, and then it's in a fellow fire sign, which really, really resonates with you. You get that feeling of energy, so it's less bitching kind of intense psychoanalytical energy, and it goes into a feeling of adventure and a feeling of freedom. So I do think this is very much a month of two halves, where a lot of the energy is kind of really kind of mulling over some of the really intense stuff, which then gives way to a feeling of freedom, in particular when the sun goes into the sign of Sagittarius on the 22nd. I think that's also very helpful. Now, you've also got Mercury going through this area. So again, your thoughts are intense and then later release. So I think this is actually the overall theme for you. Now, the 13th, the new moon, I would absolutely recommend, at times of new moons, I think it's a great time for you to really think about what you want to let go of and what you want to bringing in more than letting go. I mean, letting go is more, I think, for a full moon, but hey, it's still churning in the 8th house. It's, you might hold on to it for a little bit longer. But the new moon is really showing you where you've got a new start, where you've got the opportunity to build something from scratch, where you've got the chance to get some freedom from some of the old burdens of the past. And the eighth house also often has quite invasive family controls and family heaviness. The eighth house is really quite heavy. It's also super sensitive and often a place of guilt, so where people are throwing guilt on you. And this is your opportunity to get a whole new start and clear the guilt away and say, enough, I'm done with that. Give me a break. So yeah, this is really good. Now, later on, from this moment of getting a new start and getting this feeling of clarity, you've then got 2 weeks later on the 27th, the full moon in the sign of Gemini. Now, this is occurring in your third house, which is very much about your local environment, very much about the people you normally speak to on a day-to-day basis. It's very much to do with your locality and your communications. Don't be surprised at all if you find that people in your life are communicating in quite a destructive, short-tempered and bad way, and that people are naturally trying to hone in on detail and facts rather than thinking through the bigger picture. Now, far be it from me, Aries, to tell you that you're short in your thinking. I mean, Aries tend to really like to make a quick decision, and they usually base it on facts. But right now, you're actually in a very philosophical mood. Right now, you're wanting to explore a greater context in life and feel a much bigger connection to things. So you may well find that the kinds of people and thinking that you usually actually quite enjoy is actually now starting to get you down and starting to make you feel like you're a bit penned in. Anyway, this month is for you freeing yourself. Now, where you might need a little bit more support and a little bit, just to remind yourself, it doesn't have to be difficult. It's like with this Pluto to Saturn area, it's really indicating to me that friendships and networks have got less fun. They're not as fun as they used to be. They're probably not as productive as they have been in recent times. It almost feels like things are slowing down. So what I would do if I was in your shoes is focus more on people that are coming in independently, coming in not out of friends that you've got from years ago, not coming out of existing work networks, but people that are just coming into your life that are feeling a resonance with you. What I'd like you to focus on, really, to remember how worthy you are and to remember how good life can be, is just remember that there are some really great relationships around you that you've attracted in just by being you. They're the things that are going to really reflect where you're going, what you need to know about yourself, so that you don't have to ask, who am I, by the end of the month. I think you're going to know, and I think you're going to be really quite delighted at the sense of freedom you feel. So anyway, that's my feeling for you in this month ahead, Aries, and I hope that was helpful. I'm just going to move on to Taurus, but before I go, let's just see if anyone else is asking anything or saying anything. No, so I'm free to go on. Bless you, all the people that are listening, because newbie, I know you're a Sagittarius. You probably don't want to wait this long for your update. I would say come back in an hour and I'll be absolutely there for you. But anyway, let's have a look. So Taurus, now how is this moving for you, Taurus? I mean, it's interesting because right before we go into November, you'd have had the full moon, the partial lunar eclipse on the 28th or 29th of October, which will have really activated and stirred up a lot about how you feel about yourself. And so really, I think the first part of November is really dealing with what you've learned about yourself in recent times. Like, where's your new mission? Why did you get so fired up at the end of October? What was it? Was it like you had a flea in your ear or something? Now, the good thing about it is it's giving you a much greater sense of your preferences. Like, what do you prefer to be creating in life? And what's really showing up is that right now you're having life reflected back at you through the seventh house and the eighth house experience. So, for the most part, like for the first 3 weeks of November, you'll probably find that you're doing most of your learning, most of your experiencing, and a lot of the things that come up are through projections. What I would say is where you're getting annoyed by people or where people are saying, hey, Taurus, what's going on with you? You seem a bit different. Any kind of projection that doesn't quite match your image of who you think you are, and also where other people don't appear to be who they are, what I would say is that's a sign. It's a bit of a cosmic clue that something's going on. Truth is, we're all in a situation of change right now, and you're changing, they're changing. And right now you're learning about the changes you're going through the people that you know, reflecting it back at you. So what I would say is, you know, you are ruled by Venus, and your Venus is going into the sign of Libra on the 8th. So I would say hold fire. From the 8th, you should be able to find a bit more peace about it. And I would also say, just, you know, when something is coming at you that doesn't feel like it's you, but somebody's saying it's you, take a moment and think, okay, what part of this can I not see about myself? And then ask yourself again, could this be part of me? Is this a side of me that I'm not yet able to accept? What does this side of me represent? Why might it be difficult to accept this? And, you know, you may well find a whole bunch of stuff comes up, because let's face it, your ruling planet right now is kind of in between the 5th, which is very creative, and it's going into the 6th, which has a lot to do with your physical, the way you live your life, your physicality, your health and stuff. And so you probably find that a lot of your energies have been stirred up, so much so that you're starting to live differently. You know, you've got new ideas from what you've been doing and who you've been romancing, etc. And, you know, there is this feeling of something new and fresh coming in. So, you know, I think if people are noticing you're different, accept it, mull it over. Don't go into a rejection. Don't go into a drama. Think of it as it's feedback. It's a helpful feedback. It's helping you to see how you look. A bit like just looking in the mirror and saying, I've got a bit of mascara here, or, you know, my eyebrows are a bit wonky. You know, someone is providing you feedback and you don't need to take it personally. That's key. Now, this new moon that's taking place on the 13th is there to really guide you to go deeper into your relationships. And of course, if you're able to trust the feedback that you're getting from the people around you, your relationships are going to go much deeper and to a much more enjoyable space. So if you imagine you've got this new moon in Scorpio, Venus is already in the 6th house, so you're already feeling a little bit more relaxed, a lot more into getting your life looking right and feeling right. What could be better than to have a good relationship? So around the 13th, whether you're in a relationship or not, I would think about new ways to enjoy your life with people that you absolutely adore and want to spend more time with. I mean, what greater gift could there be? Now, as a caveat, I should also say that obviously you've been going through a whole heap of changes for a really long time, you know, with Uranus going through your 1st house, which has created a sort of new type of Taurian. It has kind of made Taurians a little bit more fresh thinking, a lot more innovative. And you've also got Jupiter going through your 1st house as well, which is also shifting that and giving you a much bigger personality. But even with that, see how you can go even deeper. The true Taurian really does want to be sympathetic to all of their fellow brothers and sisters and their lovers. You know, they want it all to go well. They're not very happy when they're not getting on with people. Now, the full moon on the 27th of November is happening in your 2nd house. And I don't think the 2nd house is just about money. I also think it's about our resources and how we think about ourselves. Really, how do we value ourselves? Where is your self-worth, your self-esteem? And this is going to be playing out between your 2nd and an 8th. And again, it follows on from the whole conversation about your relationships, where you're not dealing with your relationships in a great way. As the sun goes into the sign of Sagittarius, don't be surprised to find that any shared assets you have feel tighter and more restrictive. The more you can get into a happy place with the people that are in your life now, the much more successful you're going to feel as we are coming up to this tightness of the full moon. And of course, let's not forget there's going to be this T-square with Saturn in your 11th house. So I really think keeping it sweet with the people in your life is the best strategy you can find. In particular, especially seeing as with Pluto on one side of your 10th house and Saturn right at the end of your 10th house, you need to keep people as sweet as possible. Last thing that I really think you should focus on is that Venus, your ruling planet, is conjunct the South Node. Don't be surprised if somebody really dear to you from the past comes back during the last week in November. You know, enjoy what this represents. And just know that this is a time for you to feel really loved. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Right, let's move on to getting some comments. I'm listening and waiting for Scorpio, as in my rising. Oh, bless you, makeup therapy. This might be a while. I suspect it will be around about 8:15. Sorry, quarter past the next hour. I might be wrong. I'm just trying to. I do like to waffle, so it might take a while. But you can always listen in on playback. I just don't want to keep you here if if it's painful. But hopefully you'll know some people along the way. I've also got Zoe Kelly's Universe listening in. She's got a great channel. Check that out. Anyway, right, let's move on to the next one. So Gemini. Now, this is an interesting one because obviously at the end of this month, you have got the full moon in your first house, which is going to really create some movement for you. You know, it's almost like you, throughout the space of this month, it's like you grow, you grow, you grow, you grow, you get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you get this really great sense of yourself. And then around the time of the full moon, it's like, okay, I can't quite contain my pure potential anymore. Something's got to give. So what I would say right from the get-go, Gemini is, or Gemini Ascendant is, watch how much you're taking on right now. You know, like first of all, like the sun in this month ahead is moving from your 6th to your 7th. The 6th is a real kind of workhorse kind of area, isn't it? If you think you've got all the energy to work, because you know there's the sun, there's Mercury, there's Scorpio charging through your 6th house, really energizing it, really getting you going, getting things organized at home, getting your health feeling quite motivated. And you know, there's a lot of charge energy where you're getting everything sorted out. And then towards the end, towards the 22nd, you know, you've got the sun going into the sign of Sagittarius, crossing over your descendant. You've also already got Mercury, your ruling planet, in Sagittarius from the 10th. And, you know, finally, you know, Mars will join you join the sun in Sagittarius around I think it's the 24th. So there is this sort of big push from all of the work you're doing to people. And of course, all this work that you're setting up is really bringing in more people into your world. And so this is why I think towards the 27th, you're going to be exhausted. So what I would say, first of all, is around the 13th, around the time of the new moon, is to absolutely focus on what your core work goals are, your core home goals, your core health goals, and then think beyond that. Think a little bit deeper, like what values do I have? What goals do I have? That if I was to live by these values and achieve these goals, what would that do for my work, my health, and my home? So rather than have specific goals, you know, taking you off in this direction for home, this direction for your health, this direction for your work, why not just work on living by the values that you feel really, really are core to you? And why not work on a goal that is going to work on all three of those areas? You know, because the 6th house is this kind of fit for purpose kind of place, you know. It's like everything you're doing on a daily basis, your diet, your health, whether you got a workout fitness routine, you know, where you go every day to do your work, where you do your banking and everything. It captures all of that. It's not a very glamorous house, to be fair, but to get the really bitching new moon in Scorpio with the moon and the sun and Mars all together around that area, that's going to be really energizing things. Also, this is also in opposition to Uranus in your 12th. Now, obviously, the 12th is a place where our unconscious mind is. You know, it's really the place of all that's hidden and the place where we're not always able to put our finger on things. And so it's quite possible that there are things coming up for your unconscious mind, sort of cluttering and making you think you've got to do stuff. Because if you don't do stuff, you're gonna not be able to get clear. You know, when I had my Uranus return, my Uranus is in my 12th. I have to say, my life got really turned up on, you know, it got really turned around and everything was kind of upside down looking. You've got this kind of similar energy going on right now. So what I would do is around the new moon is kind of cut out and get to the core of what's important to you, so that by the time the full moon comes around on the 27th, you're not overwhelmed and stressed out. Let's face it, you've got a really fantastic ability to pivot between projects and things. But just because you can pivot doesn't mean you should. Last couple of things then. In terms of support, you are on this great adventure and you do tend to take on more than you can chew. But, with Pluto one side of this adventurous area and then Saturn just before your 10th, I would say straying off and going off in a wild and weird direction probably isn't that helpful right now. Much better to get to the core of who you are so that that can determine where you go. And in terms of Venus in a conjunction with the South Node right at the end of the month, I really think the more you tune into your own innate creativity, the better you'll feel in terms of yourself. So I hope that's helpful advice for you, Gemini. I don't always feel the energy of Gemini, I have to say, because I'm a Sagittarius, so I tend to be completely in the opposite polarity. But I really feel for your ability to take things on and get completely overwhelmed with it all. So you take care of yourself. Don't take on more than you can handle. And trust me, you'll be bouncing again, as we get moving beyond this time. So anyway, let's move on to the next thing. And before I go there, just going to check in with Makeup Therapy saying, I will be here. It's interesting. Thank you. Where are you from, by the way, Makeup Therapy? I haven't checked out I could probably do with checking out your channel. Always learn something new. And Zoe's saying, you nailed the month of October for me when you looked at my chart. Bless you. Thank you so much for that. I love that feedback. And I really appreciated it when you put it in as a comment. That was really helpful. Right. So next one then, let's have a look at Cancer. Whew. Let's just get some water. It's quite exhausting. So the first thing that really strikes me, and it's really important for you guys, Cancer, the moon is your ruling planet. So it's really important to pay really close attention to all of the moon phases. So not just this new moon in the sign of Scorpio and not just this full moon in the sign of Gemini, but just to consider all of the movements. And, the moon, is involved in some really big ones. Now, obviously, the moon connects and connects with every single planet every single month and makes every single permutation of aspect. So, I mean, that really goes to show just how many, like the full range of emotions that a Cancerian goes through. But in particular, there are a couple of times in this month ahead where I think, boy, that is tight. And I just need to find my notes to find out these ones, because I'm actually going to talk you through these slightly. Okay. So here's what I want you to focus on, Cancer, to help you have a smoother month ahead. First of all, the first week, the moon is going from the sign of Gemini right the way through to Virgo. And when it's going through your first and second house, it's going to be bringing up a lot of stuff about your identity and how you're feeling in what you're earning and what you're doing, kind of like the direction you're heading in. The first week in particular seems to really capture these, because you're pretty much at the end of Gemini as we go into November. Now, as we the first week is actually quite a strong one. There's some very, very big oppositions. We've got an opposition between the Sun and Jupiter on the 3rd. And then we've also got an opposition between Venus at the tail end of Virgo and Neptune. And so you'll be really feeling the sensitivity of all the polarity on the 3rd and 4th. And I talk about this actually in my overall month ahead, week 1. It's all about separation. It's keeping people really polarized. And then by the 6th and 7th, I really see this as being quite a weepy time, which might affect you a little bit more than most people. We've got this very strong trine energy between Venus, which at that point is here, to Pluto. And then later on, we've got this connection between Mercury in a trine and Neptune, and it's making Cancerians in particular feel super duper sensitive. So don't be surprised at all in week 1 if you're feeling really kind of activated. I would absolutely seek to find people that can support you around that time. Now, week 2 is a big one because we've got this great big new moon in the sign of Scorpio. And it's it's at 20 degrees. It's in a conjunction with Mars. and it's in pretty much an exact opposition with Uranus. Now, that's going to be stirring up a lot for you. This is occurring in between your 5th house and your 11th house, this sort of very catalyzing opposition. And so I think everything that you're creating and everything that you're birthing is likely to be given a lot more energy. So, for instance, if you're a mother or a father, you might find that your children are super duper intense, which could be really difficult to cope with, especially if you've actually got some Scorpio children. I've got 2, and boy, are they intense. Yeah, you've also got Mars going through this area. So, there's if you haven't got children, or you've got like lots of birthing things, like lots of projects on the go, lots of interests, again, that's likely to be intense. Like whatever it is you're wanting to create or work with, and kind of birth, like bring forward into the world, is really strongly highlighted and accented. I think it's a real time for you to almost come away from what you've been creating with other people and go into your space. I mean, this is a time for you to feel really quite empowered. However, it's likely to get a little bit of resistance against people who are really wanting to co-create with you. I actually think this second week is more about you feeling into what's right and true for you. So I would watch that space, like try and get carve out a little bit of space for you so that you can get really clear about who you are. Because that's the other thing. Sure, you've got this really strong Cancerian shell, but you need it, because if you didn't, you'd have absolutely no support. You are so perceptive to other things that I think around week 2, I would stick to myself and try and spend as much time in my own little inner cocoon. Now, week 3 is super intense, because by that time the moon has shifted up and is in a conjunction with Capricorn, with Pluto and Capricorn on the 18th. And on this day as well, the sun is in a conjunction with Mars in the sign of in the sign of Scorpio. And so this particular day, the 18th, is very, very strong for you, and it's likely to create almost a strong realization of people manipulating you behind the scenes, like what's controlling you. I mean, in particular, I said this is the area where you need a bit more support, and it's around the 8th house. It's where people almost have a bit of power over you at the moment. The 8th house captures blame, shame, guilt, and anger, and all those family curses and traditions that we all get locked into. It also really shows where we are locked into financial, transactional, sort of interactions with people that feel very, very difficult for you to come out of or get a sense of equality on. So I really think that on the 18th, when the moon is here as well, it's likely to be a very, very strong day. Now, towards the 20th, the moon will actually be in a conjunction with Saturn. So it feels like between the 18th and the 20th, you need to go in with a full body armor and get really, really sure about what's yours and what's theirs, and what you're prepared to carry on your shoulders, and what you're prepared to say, no, 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 this is not mine. This does not belong to me, and I return it to sender. It's really important for you to be clear. Now, as we're coming up to week 4, and we've got the full moon in Gemini, this is highlighting the area of your unconscious mind, your dreams, your imagination, all those things from the past that you've forgotten, but your psychic body has remembered. It's a very, very deep and powerful full moon, and it's likely to bring up a lot of emotions. So what I would say around the 27th of November, it's really time to give yourself some kind of treat, be around people that you love but don't crowd you, and to have some strategies in place so that you can get a little bit of respite. Let's face it, this is a very, very strong month, super strong month. And for this, you absolutely need to give yourself as much space and as grace as possible, so that you feel that you've got the ability to make clear choices without being under the influence of other people. Really important. Last thing that I would say is the South Node is connecting to or Venus is connecting to the South Node in the last week, in particular from the 22nd right the way through to the end. And it's really reminding you of times in the past where you felt like you had a sense of belonging. So if at any point you're not feeling If you're feeling threatened, if you're feeling it's all too much, like you're feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders, or you go into a shop and you can almost feel the emotions coming off of people, then what I would recommend that you do is you go to places from the past, places that you've connected to where you felt safe. Go to places that remind you of your favorite grandma, or, your favorite best friend. Go to, like, at the moment, I'm listening to a lot of old music from my childhood, and boy, is it comforting. Just connect to the past. You've got such a great ability to do that anyway. So connect to the past and get yourself some respite. I do think this is a creative stage. And as we look into the month after, as I will do next month, you'll be in a much more practical space and need a lot less protection. It just feels like in this very sort of psychic space right now, you could do with a bit of bolstering. So I hope that's helpful to you, Cancer. And I wish you a really fantastic month ahead. Lots of love. So let's see what else is coming in. Nothing coming in right now. So I'm just going to crack on while I've got the time. So Leo, if you've got Leo ascendant or a very strong sort of accented Leo in your chart, then this will be for you. Now, this is an interesting one because the new moon that's coming in on the 13th is absolutely, I'm just working out if I've got time. Yeah, okay. Is working through your fourth into your fifth house. And the fourth house is a very, very strong place. It's a place of where we grow up, I guess. It's like our home, it's our foundations, it's our behaviors based on what we've been taught. So a lot of our conditioning goes on in the fourth house. And so this is always an interesting time for you, Leo, because as the sun goes through here and Mercury and Mars, you're really reminded of your inner programming. It really comes in on full force. Now, thankfully, we've got Venus in the second house as we go into November. And so that's activating a lot of inner wealth and giving you some ideas as to your true value. And I think that information is really important because as Venus goes into the third, it helps you communicate your true value so that as you're heading into this time where you're considering your behaviors, your programming, and this, that, and the other, it's almost like you've got an additional programming, like a renewed sense of your values, a renewed sense of how to talk about your values and what you bring this world. So I actually think that's quite beneficial. During this month ahead, and obviously the sun is your ruling planet, the sun is moving from the fourth into the fifth. And so what I would say is for the first 3 weeks, whilst the sun is in the sign of Scorpio, and as Venus is moving through your second and into your third house, I would really consider, like, what value have you picked up on that's brought you greater wealth and greater resources and greater security in this last year, since the last time you went through this phase? Where have you learned more about yourself? Where has this learning benefited you, and where is it moving you? Because I really think that as the sun moves into the sign of Sagittarius around the 22nd, you'll get the chance to create something new for yourself. You'll get the chance to think, okay, well, it's time to put pen to paper. It's time to talk with those people that I had the idea with like many moons ago. It's time to pick this up. I mean, this would be a really good time for you to pick up your old diaries, your old notebooks, and see all the old ideas. Because, I always think that when we take a trip down memory lane into the fourth house, a lot of stuff comes up, and it really reminds us where we belong and who we are. So this is a very strong time. Now, the new moon on the 13th is there to help you feel a greater sense of belonging. So use that to create any new house goals, living arrangements to get them sorted out. If you want to move, this is the kind of energy that you need to create a new world for yourself. What I think is really interesting is the full moon that is occurring on the 27th, which is at 4 degrees in the sign of Gemini. Now, the 11th house is quite an exciting one, and it brings up a lot of opportunities. And obviously, with the sun as your ruler and with Leo ascendant, you're pretty confident probably, and most likely very, very well connected. So I think this full moon is probably going to bring up a lot of opportunities for you, possibly more than you can handle. So I would look at that. But the more you can start creating from the 13th around the new moon, and then as the sun moves into the fifth, the more you're already creating, the greater the effect I think your networking, your connections, your contacts will have in yielding you this new project. So what if I was to like step you through the month, I would say consider where you're going, consider where you belong, and think, okay, how can I move this? How can this work together? Then, as you're developing your ideas and starting to make an intention for your success, because obviously this new moon is also going to be working with Uranus in your 10th house. This could springboard you into quite an interesting level of success quite quickly. So I would get really moving from the 13th to the 27th. You really want to develop your ideas as soon as possible. So around the time of the full moon, you are open to all opportunities. You don't have to take them all, but isn't it great that you get that? Isn't it great that you get that little stroke of ego, Leo? Now, where you do need a bit more support is probably from your partners, because I imagine during this moment in time, you're really quite busy and probably ignoring a lot of your loved ones, a lot of your nearest and dearest. So yeah, you might need a bit more support from them, but let them know what you do need. You know, don't just leave them hanging. Say, look, right now I'm a bit tied up in myself and it's okay. And the fact is they know you. They absolutely love you. They absolutely adore you. And I'm sure they'll stand by your side. Where you need to remember you're worthy is in your ability to create really good feelings in the people that you meet. And I think you have some really good conversations. So keep that in mind. Anyway, Leo, I hope that is helpful. Have a great month ahead. And hopefully I'll catch up with you next month as we come into December. Anyway, take care and speak to you soon. Right. Next one. Any more comments? Nope. So I'm just going to keep going and plowing through. So we're into Virgo now. And the ruler for Virgo is Mercury. And obviously, Mercury starts in the sign of Scorpio, which is really activating the third house, really helping Virgos to kind of come out of themselves a little bit more. Now, at the same time, Venus has been going through their own sign, you know, like Venus has been going through the first house. So you've had a bit of a, it's almost like you've been going through a bit of a glamorous phase. You know, people are starting to recognize you, know you. It feels like more people want to know you and have you on their books or have you in their like WhatsApp groups and things like that. So, you know, there is this great feeling. I always love it when Venus, you know, crosses over the ascendant, goes into your first house. I mean, this is a time for you to exploit a little bit, I have to say, Virgo. I mean, let's face it, you're not very exploitative. So you've got to take it when you get these opportunities. So in this month ahead, you know, you've got this kind of shining star of Venus in your first house, and Venus later, you know, just after week 1 moves into the second house. Your second house is about your resources. So, you know, use the power of your personality as the hook, and get things moving for you throughout the whole of November. You know, get the Venus energy working. Now, whilst that's going on, you know, you've got your own planet, Mercury, your own ruler in the third house, which is helping you get into much deeper conversations because it's in the sign of Scorpio. It's helping you to create a much better sense of fun and energy and busyness. You know, there's a lot of great things happening. And the more and more you're getting out and about with people and exercising your charm, using your charm and using everything to great advantage, the more you do that, the better everything is going to go. Now, around the 13th, with the new moon in Scorpio, you've got this really lucky time. You've got Mars going through there. You've got the sun and the moon all there to help you learn and to help you connect with the right people and to help you have some influence at a local level. Now, this influence could actually grow. It could have legs, but you've got to get it started. So it's very much perfect for new projects in their infancy that you really want full support on. So, you know, if you've got anything going on right now whereby you could benefit from capturing the imagination. I mean, if you're looking for funding, if you're looking for I don't know, anywhere where you're looking for some support from people, now is your time. The new moon in Scorpio is your time to get that going, to get that moving. Now, I'm quite purposeful in saying that because 2 weeks later, a bit like what I've just shared with Leo, but for slightly different reasons, 2 weeks later, you got the full moon in the 10th house. And that, yes, that could, like, all hell could break loose in the way you stand strong in the world. Yes, you could get a bit full of yourself, but to be fair, you got Virgo ascendant. It's unlikely to happen. So let these new growth signals that are coming up from the 13th with a new moon in Scorpio, let them grow something. Use this time to gather influence. Use this time to communicate your message in the best way possible and with the best supportive people around you, so that around the time of the full moon, you can absolutely go to town with the energies. As the month progresses, the sun goes into the sign of Sagittarius on the 22nd. You'll be able to take your foot off the gas just a little bit. You know, it's your time to kind of come back into yourself, take a moment and go, flipping heck, that was a busy moment in time. You know, so use the first few weeks to get your ideas and to build your influence, and then just put your feet up a little bit. You know, it's like most of the work is taking place at the first few moments of November. Now, where you might need a bit more support is in how everything is organized at home, like how you do your routine. Like, for instance, if you've got kids to pick up from school, or if you've got bills to pay, and right now you're investing in something, you might need to get a little bit of help, you know. So don't be afraid to ask for help. I think a lot of people would be very happy to help you, Virgo ascendant, because, you know, at the end of the day, you're there for so many other people, and what you supply and the kind of role you have in life is so intrinsic to every community that, you know, don't underestimate the level of loyalty that people have with you. The last thing that I would say is you really are worthy. And with Venus going through your like you've got the south node at the moment, it's really important for you to also consider where you've earned more money in the past, where you have had good ideas and that maybe you've let them go off the boil a bit. There's no need to struggle, you know, just because we have this, what looks like a normal time, you know, like we have a past, we have a present, we have a future. Just because it looks like things stay in the past doesn't mean to say that's actually true. You know, it's always okay to review the past and see where maybe you made a mistake to leave something behind, you know, but give it some thought. Right now, this is your month for influence and for a sense of building into something much greater than what you can conceive of. So I hope you have a really great month ahead. So let's got Nora joining us now. Hi everyone, on time, I'm here. It's nice to see you. How you doing? I hope you're well. You know, I've never found out where you live, I don't think, Nora. Where in the world are you? I know you show up on a lot of my videos, but I'd love to know a little bit more. Just give me a couple of code words, that'd be great. Right. So the next one, Libra ascendant. So I'm halfway through in 45 minutes. That bodes well. So Libra ascendant then. In fact, let me just grab a drink. Now, if you've got Libra ascendant, this is actually a great month for you. I love this. You know, I was just talking to Virgos about how Venus has crossed over their ascendant in the last month and has been playing around in their first house and going into their second. Of course, you're just about to go through this. So right now you've got Venus, your ruling planet, going through your 12th. It's kind of smoothing over a lot of your old memories, helping you have a kind of wistful time. It's also probably a time when you felt like you've wanted to just relax a little bit and kind of take it a bit easy. I often find that, you know, when I'm in this kind of 12th house space, actually kind of where I am now, actually, because I've got Scorpio rising, you know, it's often a time when we need to have a bit of a rest. But from the 8th of November, when Venus crosses into your first house, this is marking really quite a special time for you. So this is like you're having a personal facelift. This is like you have glamour, you have this ability to charm people. It's like, I don't know, it's like somebody casts a spell over you. It's a bit like the fairy godmother in Cinderella. And you are Cinderella. You're getting this makeover, this kind of cosmic makeover that everyone else can feel and see, and that you're radiating out and you have no idea you're doing it, but everyone else can pick it up. It's great. And you're feeling a lot more generous. It's a fantastic time to meet somebody when Venus is in this area crossing over your ascendant. So, if you know the exact degree of your ascendant and you're single and you're like hopeful to meet somebody, make sure you wear your best knickers and your best clothes and you're looking great and you're getting out there around the time, because it really brings in great opportunities. Now, so you got Venus going through your first house pretty much for most of the month. And later on, around the 22nd to the 30th, Venus is also going to be connecting into the South Node, which is a great time for you to remember all the times when you felt hot, available, in demand, special, and when you've really enjoyed being yourself. I really think this month ahead is about renewing your faith in yourself, remembering why you're here, remembering what your mission or purpose is. There are lots of things going on for you right now that are there to remind you of what it is that you've come here to do, be, and have. So yeah, this is great. Now, also what's going on, and I think this is quite beneficial as well, is we've got the sun, we've got Mercury and Mars going through your second house. The second house, yes, it's about your resources and your money, but it's also about how you value yourself. I think this is a time when we grow in confidence, and given that Mars, the ruler of your second house, is in your second house and is connecting to the sun and the moon at the same time, at the time of the new moon on the 13th. It's a really quite magical time for you to really start planning and start intentioning, wishing, praying, whatever you want to call it, for the kind of life you want to live, the kind of resources you want to earn, for the uniqueness that like you have in your lovely Venus makeover, how that can bring you some extra value. This is a really great time for you. Now, obviously, it's in opposition to Uranus, which is up here at the same time. Now that could very well create a little bit of difficulty with people that you might co-create with, that you might own things with, that you might share resources with, and you might find that some people around you are putting on a lot of blame, shame, guilt, and anger that seems to come out of nowhere. But I think if anyone's testing you that way, it's really to see just how determined you are to see your own true value. And that is really where you need to sit. You need to sit comfortably in the knowing that you are valuable and precious and you're here for a reason. Really, definitely. Towards the end of the month, as the sun goes into Sagittarius, you'll be feeling a bit more talkative, and some of the pressure, some of that sort of like pressurized environment is going to ease off a bit. And that's good. That's helpful. And then it kind of racks up again around the 27th. Now, as far as things go, I would say having the full moon take place in the 9th house is one of the most benign. It's not as dreadful. Sometimes the full moon in like our 4th, our 7th, our 10th, or our 1st can feel very, very intense. Whereas the 9th, the 9th is a place of expansion. It's a place of adventure. It's a place that we go to relax and hang out and grow as people, and to feel a bit more spiritual, feel a bit more political, a bit more philosophical. It's where we go to expand our minds. So I actually think the full moon in Gemini could represent a time when you recognize the fullness of who you are, and also what you might need to get you to the next level. So you might realize that you need a bit of extra study. You might need to read some books. You might need to go to some seminars, connect with people, go on a bit of a journey. And all of that can be planned for in this new moon stage. So I actually see how they work really beneficially for you. Where you could do with a bit more help, I think, is to recognize that it's likely a lot easier to create at the moment with the help of friends. I would imagine that the more you're co-creating, the more you're learning about the whole process of creation. It's not to say that you're not very creative, because you are. Like, Librans are super duper creative. But with Pluto right here and Saturn right here, it's kind of, I would say, in the last couple of years, as Saturn went through this part of your chart, you've probably been quite serious about the things you've created. It hasn't brought you as much joy. So I would say keep creating in this place here with all your friends and the people that you love. Towards the end of the month, like I say, it's really important just to remember how fabulous you are. So spend time with people that are reflecting that to you. Make the most of it. These Cinderella moments don't last forever. The wheels keep on turning, the planets keep on moving, and we keep evolving. So we will have to move out of this lovely sort of glamorous stage. However, I think this month of November could really help to set you up in a much more strong and compelling space. So anyway, there's my 2 pennyworth, Libra. I hope that's helpful. Right. We are absolutely okay. I've got a few comments coming, which is quite helpful. So hi everyone, that's Nora. She's saying good thanks, or I don't know if Nora is a woman actually, but saying good thanks. I'm from the UK. Cool. Hope all is well on your side. It really is. We're having lots of fun and games. Hello, says Sarah. I think my ascendant is Libra. Not sure. I don't actually have time to check right now, Sarah. But the great thing is you can access this on playback. And after this show, I'll let you know. I'll send you a private message. Nora is saying, hope so. Very single. Good to hear that. So I'm guessing Nora, you've got Libra and Ascendant. So this is all very good. Sarah's saying, Louisa, can you explain how the Ascendant and Sun are both applicable? Maybe you already did, but I am late. Just I did explain it a little bit earlier, Sarah, but I always think that the Ascendant, if you listen to the star sign of your Ascendant, it will give you a feel for how the planets are moving. In fact, let me just take this off for a minute. It gives a sense of where the planets are in the architecture of your life. So, for instance, like your ascendant determines you and your body, and the descendant is fixed. That shows everyone else. Then you've got the angle to do with your home, the IC at the bottom, the MC at the top, which are showing you, where you're from and where you're going to, or as some people say, home and work. So you've got all these different houses. And so when I'm reading the forecasts, I think it's more accurate for the ascendant, because I'm saying where the planets are influencing you in terms of which houses they're in. So for instance, like if you are somebody with Libra and ascendant, like right now, you've got this kind of beautiful glamorization going on, where everything is starting to look better and where you have a lot more influence, and where opportunities are building for you. So it's great. It's really, really helpful. Now, where your sun is about your ego and it's about your personality. But if you read your sun, so for instance, I'll give you a practical example. Like my sun is in the sign of Sagittarius, which we'll be coming to in 2 signs time. Now, right now, we are so if I was to read this from the Scorpio, my sun sign, my ascendant, I would be talking about how what's being activated right now is my 12th to my first house, and that's really creating a strong need to sort of like recreate my unconscious mind, realize my potentials, and it gives you a chance to reprogram and to examine your programming. Now, if I was to listen to Sagittarius, and right now the sun at time of recording is going through Libra, which is my 11th to my 12th, I would be talking about things from the terms of my personality. So like if you listen to the star sign to do with your if you listen to the horoscope, like the actual sign of your sun, what comes out is more about your personality and how you handle life. So one is about how things show up in your life, and the other is more about how your personality is going. Some people also listen to their moon, because it gives an idea of what's going on in their emotions. So if you find out where yours are at the end of this show, I'll use you as an example if you're happy for me to use you as an example, and hopefully I'll be able to explain it in greater detail. I hope that makes sense, and let me know if you're happy for me to do that. And Nora is saying, thank you for some very nice messages. Oh, you're very welcome. I'm really pleased that was helpful. Right. So I don't think I actually made that any easier, Sarah, but let me know if you're happy for me to look specifically. You said thank you. Excellent explanation. Use me as an example anytime. Okay. Can you remind me at the end to look at your chart? I'll bring it up somehow in a way, or I'll mention both of your sun sign. If you can let me know your sun sign and your ascendant at the end of the show, or I will find out somehow. I'll look it up on my phone, okay, and then I'll let you know. Oh my god, this is all sort of live and interactive. Right, so actually we're going on to my ascendant now, and I know there was somebody, Makeup Therapy has got Scorpio ascendant, so this one is for you too. So this is a really big one for us. I say us because obviously I'm there. Actually, let me just get a bit of water first. See, this is a big one because as we go into this month ahead, into November, the sun is in Scorpio already. Mars is in Scorpio. Mars is one of our ruling planets. So, like Mars is already in Scorpio going through our first house. This normally relates to us feeling a greater sense of vitality, because where Mars goes, there is vitality and energy and directiveness and assertiveness. So, this is an assertive month where you're more likely to push yourself forwards and to enjoy it. You've also got Mercury going through here as well, which will be creating a much more insightful way of communicating and making you really want to get your point across. So as we come into this Scorpio time, this is a time when you feel more confident usually. In the month before, so like throughout October, we're going through that phase of being a little bit cautious, not knowing when to move exactly, kind of in a dreamlike state, trying to collect all our ideas together. And then from November, it starts to coalesce. It starts to come forwards. Now, the first house is all about your personality, your appearance, your body. So it really is about the nuts and bolts of how you appear to be, like what people see about you, the image that you're giving off, the aura that you have. And of course, Scorpio ascendant is actually quite powerful. The other planet that rules Scorpio is also Pluto. And Pluto right now is dancing between the third and the fourth. Pluto is showing us where we want to control things in our local environment, where we want to have a lot more influence. And throughout this month, both Pluto and Mars are actively involved in a lot of planetary setups. So this is a time when you're coming into your power. Now, it's not necessarily easy, but it's not necessarily difficult, but it's a time where you have to use your power. So it's no good thinking, I want to be powerful, but doing nothing with it. This is a time to see the opportunities and take them. And don't hesitate, because this is actually your time. So this is a time for you to step forwards. You've now got the energy to do it. You've now got the inclination to move forwards and do it. Just, have the confidence. Now, what is great about this, especially on the 13th, around the new moon in Scorpio, where the sun, the moon, and your rise, like your ruling planet, they're all together in the first, and it's there to rebrand you. It's there to give you an extra leg up. It's like, you're trying to climb over a fence, and all of a sudden somebody comes up and crouches down so you can step on them and get a little bit of a lift. This is a new moon that's there to give you a bit of a lift. And, Uranus has been in your seventh house for a while. And the chances are, over the last couple of years, you've had some kind of interesting run-ins with people that have shocked you. Like a lot of people in your life will have shocked you, amazed you sometimes. That's good too. But probably taught you a lot, because you realize you can't quite rely on people as much as you thought. And this is a time where you're encouraged to trust yourself. So it's a time to like pull up your socks, and take a step forwards and upwards. Now, as the sun goes into the sign of Sagittarius on the 22nd, you're really encouraged to take your ideas and your new sense of who you are and what you're here to do in this world, and to make use of it. So, for instance, I notice makeup therapy, I'm guessing you've got your own channel. I haven't looked, but yay, you're saying yay. But I'm guessing you are like working on your own channel. I'm sure you've got a job as well. You know, this is a time for you to progress on all fronts and to use you and the image of you and what it is that you do to be known for who you are, to use that to bring in more money, to use that to create more nice things for yourself. And it's time also to get ready to receive things. So it's no good just creating opportunities, but then not being prepared to receive. So it's really important that you make it possible for people to gift you, that you make it possible for people to share things with you, to give you things. And that also means being open to everything, not just only good things. You have to, you have to put yourself in a bit of a dangerous situation whereby you might get good feedback, you might get bad feedback, but the overall trend is that it's good. Now, towards the full moon on the 27th, it's activating the 8th house where you get other people's crap, to be honest. It's a place of initiations. It's like a rite of passage. It shows you, I think, how much more you've got to let go of, essentially. Like the 8th house really shows your inner psychology and what you're about. It shows how strong you are. So don't be surprised if people are messing around with any shared resources that you have. It's important not to take it personally. It's important that you don't take any guilt trips and sort of backhanded compliments. What's going on around the time of the full moon is people are feeling pretty stressed out. And there are a lot of horrible T-squares. And if you listen to my overall reading for November, you'll hear more about the overall energy that everyone's kind of living in and swimming in. But right now, other people are challenging you to have even greater resolve to be yourself. So don't let somebody's perceived criticism or bad mood or kind of shitty behavior, don't let other people put you off. This is your time to build yourself up. And the more you do it, the easier it's going to get. Now, where you need more support, I would say, is in your inner programming. This is a time where you've probably felt at the same time as Uranus has been going through your 7th house of other people, and you've realized you can't rely on people as much as you'd hoped. You've also had Saturn going through your 4th house, which has probably almost taken your feet from underneath you at times, where you felt, wow, I really thought that was secure and it's not. And, newsflash, what's really happening is we're getting a really good feel for standing up on our own 2 feet and running at a much more intense pace. So where you need a bit more support is where you do know you can trust people, trust them. You might want to pay someone to help you out at home. You might want to call somebody in to do a few things, but it's really important that you regain a sense of trust in your environment and trust in the people that you do have around you. All that's needed really is to remember what you've learned over the last few years and to put it into action. So it's just asking you to be discerning, which, most people with Scorpio ascendant do tend to have quite good discernment. Where you need to remember you're worthy, and this is going back into the inner programming bit, it's just, wherever you are remembering old times where you maybe got dissed or where you weren't seen as good enough. Like good enough is a really big thing for the 12th house. With this South node going through your 12th house, you're getting these little memories of times when things haven't gone so well and times when you really needed support. And so actually, when these things come up for you, it's your time to think, okay, I'm glad that's come up. I can now see it and I now know I can do something with it. So again, this is about reprogramming your beliefs about yourself and your safety and your security, and to have a much greater trust in what you're capable of taking on. And if you can kind of work through that whilst also pushing yourself forwards, this is really quite a phenomenal time. So, this is one that's going to work on your inner psychology at quite a deep level and yet really move you on. It's like finally there's some wind coming into your sails and it feels like life is blowing with you, if that makes sense. So I hope that's helpful to you, Scorpio ascendant. I really, really hope that's helpful. So I'm just here to see if there's any more comments. So I'm just going to carry on then on to Sagittarius. So if you've got a really strong Sagittarius energy, this is going to be quite an interesting one. And if you're still watching while you're working in California, this one's for you, my love. So, yeah, from a Sagittarius perspective, this is a bit of an exhausting time sometimes because, we're going through the 12th house and into the first house. It feels like a little bit like it's always darkest before dawn. It's like if this was a day, it's right before you get up. You've been asleep for a couple of hours now, or say 4 or 5 hours, and you're getting ready to get up. And it might be, the alarm might be going off a little bit too soon. So right now, really what you're wanting to do is hibernate a little bit and to take a bit better care of yourself. Um, and it's like, that this is time for you to relax. I mean, let's face it, next month you're going into your birthday season where it's party time and there's, all this great sort of free flowing food and drink and stuff. And so this is your time where, ritually and regularly, you tend to go into yourself a lot more. You're a lot more sensitive, a lot more intuitive, and you're a lot more aware of what games you've been playing in life over the last year. It's often a time when you're also reviewing your progress and sometimes giving yourself a hard time. And I hope you're not, because things are about to change. First of all, and there's a couple of reasons why I'm saying things are changing. First of all, like Jupiter, your ruling planet, has been in the 6th house for a while. And yes, Jupiter's been retrograde for a while, but if I'm not mistaken, he starts to slow down his retrograde in December, and right at the end of December is going to start shooting forwards. So you've got Jupiter going through your 6th house, which is about everything in the way you're like living your life and organizing your life. It's all coming into play. It's all coming into a sharper focus. It's time for you to kind of upgrade your life. It's time for you to get things moving bigger and to live bigger. And it's time for you to make some really bold decisions. And so Jupiter is here to remind you of that. At the same time, you've got Venus, which is coming into a conjunction with the South Node at the end of the month. But Venus is going to be coming through this area of your 10th house and into your 11th in this month ahead. And it's reminding you of how important you've been in your work, how much influence you've had, and then all of the calls from people to collaborate. So this is a time when you're reminded, not just because Jupiter's in your 6th house saying, live bigger, draw bigger goals. You've also got this energy in recent times of, hey, I'm doing well. I'm getting good feedback from my employers. I'm getting great news from my customers. My sales are up. I'm feeling more confident, So this is a time when you're being pulled naturally into collaborations. It's a time for you to get together with other really fast-paced, big thinking people to start moving and shaking. So I think you're aware of this already. And this is why at some level in this month ahead, it's time to just rest, because the pace is going to be picking up next month. It's really going to be picking up next month, especially towards the end. So the first thing, like you've got Mercury coming into your sign on the 10th of November. So like the 10th of November, your thinking starts to shift. It starts to get like boom, boom, boom. You're like, oh, that's an idea. That's an idea. And things will start to get more social. Then on the 22nd, there's another sort of invitation for you to come out of the dark and come into yourself and to really kind of party like the celebrity that you are. Then on the 24th, you've got Mars joining you. And then it's time to get really vibrant and to really use your body and to get really excited for the impending party season. But right now, for the first few weeks, it's really like, I just need a bit more rest. It's not time for my alarm to go off yet, and that's fine. Now, on the 13th, the new moon in Scorpio, what I would absolutely recommend you do is that you create some intention to make some changes. So, the 12th house works very much at a subliminal level. So if I was in your shoes, and I kind of am because I've got Sagittarius sun, I would absolutely engage in some hypnotherapy, some timeline therapy, meditation, going to like awakening dance sessions, do something that is going to please your body, mind, and in particular your soul. Do some imagining, do some journaling, do everything that you can to awaken your imaginal cells, get everything working. This is caterpillar chrysalis territory that you're in right now. You are in your chrysalis form. You're coming out as the butterfly at the end of the month. So use this time wisely. If you did need support, it's in sort of explaining who you are and where you're going. You know, that any support you need right now is in articulating your very, very big vision. And maybe you shouldn't right now. Maybe it's more important that you just feel into the big mission that you're going into and your big idea and living it large. Feel it. Allow that energy to come up. And maybe you don't tell people about it for a little while longer until everything comes into that big sense of vitality for you. But you know, this is where you would need support if you could get it. So maybe if there's somebody who you absolutely trust, maybe another Sagittarian type who also thinks big, maybe they're the right people to tell your big goals to. But don't worry if you can't find enough people to chat with. You will get there. So anyway, the last thing I would say is the full moon is happening in the sign of Gemini, your opposite sign, on the 27th, and that's likely to bring out the nutters. You're likely to feel that that the people in your life are hypersensitive, dramatic, and bringing you a lot of old bollocks. Just don't worry about it. Just think, okay, you know, we're living in a high pressured world at the moment. There's a lot of a lot of people have got trapped energy, and it's important to just let people give off steam. So what I would really recommend that you do is not take people too seriously. Give them the space that they need to sound off. Give them adventures, but maybe take a bit of distance. So for instance, if you get invited to a party around the time of the full moon in Gemini, I would probably go but not drink. You know, I would go and plan to leave early. I would plan a few things in so that I make an appearance, say hello, and then go just as everyone starts to get over emotional, get drunk and off their heads, you know. So whatever you do, plan an escape route so that you can keep your big plans, your big energy, and that you don't get squashed by other people's upsets. So there you go. I hope that's helpful to you, Sagittarius. Have a great month ahead and speak to you next month. Right, I'm almost there now. Whew. Oh, thank you so much, Sarah, for saying that. I didn't put the charts on. There you go. Thank you so much for that. I'll have to feed that in. I'm gonna have to do that in post-production, which is a bit difficult because this is live. I have to see what I can do with that. Thank you so much for letting me know that. Nubia is saying, I'm having lunch now. And thank you. Nubia is saying that would be nice. I'm rarely have a December party season, but I have been increasing my own chill. That's great. Oh, that's the danger of working live, isn't it? And not noticing that you've taken your image off. I wonder when I took my image off. I can't remember now. I think that was in between Scorpio and Sagittarius. Thank you for letting me know that, Sarah. So onwards to the last. I haven't done Capricorn yet, have I? The last three. I was just about to miss out a sign. That would have been terrible as well. Okay, right. So Capricorn then for November. Where are we? So your own ruling planet is finally going direct on the 3rd of November, which is great, in your 3rd house. And it's moving from 0 degrees to 1 degrees, which will be a real, I think it's going to be really positive because Saturn, you know, it popped into the sign of Pisces back in March. I can't remember the exact date. Was it it doesn't matter, but it came into the sign of Pisces in March and it hung around in Pisces and then it went backwards. It started to go retrograde and it's been retrograde, I think, since the early summer. And during this time, you know, like Saturn really needs to get his energy up, I think, you know, to really get going. And he's not very comfortable in the sign of Pisces. And so it's kind of interesting energy and territory for Capricorn, you know. On the one hand, Saturn is activating the 3rd house, which is all about expression and connection and meeting with people and understanding how the flow of communication and sharing can work to generate ideas and a sense of energy. And yet Saturn has been kind of kowtowing around and not being very clear in the third house. It's difficult to feel very clear. So I think Capricorns have had to be very ploddy for quite some time. So the great news for November is it's starting to move forwards from the third. Whew, that's good. Really good. Now, you're also feeling a bit crabby. Now, obviously, crabby is associated with Cancerian, Cancer the crab. But Capricorn, like your Saturn, your ruler, is making a and let's just check that everything is up on screen still. Yes, it is. Thank you, Sarah. Scorpio and Sag need to be added. Thank you. I will do. Sorry. Um, Saturn is going into a square with Mercury and to the Sun and to Mars. Now, this is an interesting time because Saturn represents how controlled we are, and also how parental we might sound or how judgmental we sound. And when Saturn goes into these squares, it doesn't really show the best side of you. It tends to make you seem a little bit authoritarian, to appear a little bit distant, and to appear a little bit too determined, so much so that people start to think, crikey, I'm in a relationship with you. Where have you gone? So I think this is a time when Capricorns often feel like they've left the building a little bit, like they're so resilient and self-reliant that they kind of go off and do things on their own. So I see this has been good. In November, you're going to get moving again. And as you start moving, it's going to create a new impetus with people around you. Now, in particular, we're going from an 11th house to a 12th house experience, so the Sun and Mercury and Mars, they're really emphasizing your need to collaborate with people right now. They're really bringing in new opportunities. And the challenge for you is keeping these opportunities sweet, because as Mercury comes out of this area and goes into a square with Saturn, it could be that the idea of the collaboration goes a bit cold, or it gets a little bit cross-wiredy, the wires cross, something doesn't quite go well. So in my overall update, I think you should listen to, if you're interested and you're in collaborations with people right now, I would pay particular attention to the 10th of November, because around the 10th of November, it's almost like there is a miscommunication that could make things very difficult for you to progress with all the things you're building and developing. And then in week 4 of November, we've got on the from the 22nd to the 26th in particular, the Sun goes into a square with Saturn, really showing that the people you're collaborating with could very well be in opposition with you. It will feel like there is a mismatch of values. There's something that's not quite occurring between you and the people you're working with on a personal level. And then Mars in a square to you, especially if you're managing people, Capricorn. If you're managing people right now, it would be a good time to get a review system in place, or to sort of pre-review people and clear things up before the end of the month. The more you can clear up in the beginning first 2 weeks of November, the better off and easier your month will be to manage. Now, I see the new moon in Scorpio as being really beneficial to you. It's happening on the 13th. It's activating a sense of new opportunities, a sense of potential funding levels, a sense of greater camaraderie, and people kind of bringing ideas and bringing opportunities to you. So it's like the world is your oyster. There is this friendliness and there's this opportunity to grow something. If you've got a really big plan in sight, now is the time to develop it. From the 13th, it's getting the sort of like go signals, but just check how things are being managed on a personal level, just to make sure that if wires do get crossed, that you can uncross them very, very quickly. On the 22nd of November, as the Sun goes into the sign of Sagittarius, it's important to review what you've already agreed and to make sure that everything fits in at an individual level. So often when you're working in the world, Capricorn, you come across as quite rational and quite out there, very comfortable with the formalities, but maybe not so well developed on the internal side. So as the sun goes into the sign of Sagittarius, it's a time for you to think, okay, look what I've achieved, look where I'm going, I've got this, 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 and this. And it's time to start integrating that and think, okay, so while I'm doing this, what does this mean to me? How can I use this? How can I get this energy more harmonious? How can it feel good for me? So it's about absolutely relaxing after the hard work of the first 3 weeks of November. Now, towards the 27th, you've got the full moon in Gemini, which is activating the 6th house. So it's like you've got a week or so of rest between the 22nd, or say, from the 22nd to the 27th, not a week, 5 days. It feels like you've got a little moment in time to rest a little bit before you are called into looking at how things are running. Again, to me, there is almost like a priority for you to look at your best practice. Is everything still working as it should? Have you cut corners anywhere? Where have you been short? Where haven't you explained things as fully? As I said at the start, Saturn, your ruler, has been dancing around the 3rd house, which is kind of changing the way people communicate, and it's creating a bit of a distance and a bit of a vacuum. So if I was in your shoes in this month ahead, I would say the support you need is to absolutely check that all of your communications are fit for purpose. It's almost as if, it's almost as if in the last few years, we've learnt new ways of communicating and learnt new ways of working. And it's time to update that a little bit. It's time to let go of areas where we've shorthanded things, and it's time to get more personal, which may or may not feel so good for you. But actually, I think the benefits are really clear because, you've got a great sense of humor, you've got a great sense of observation, and you've got a great sense of really being able to help and mentor people. And in the last few years in particular when Saturn was going through Capricorn and also Aquarius, it's a time when you tend to get a little bit more formal, and it's a time when you tend to play to your strengths, which is your ability to create ideas and work with ideas and be a bit remote, but go so much further on your own. And yet what's really been called into question at the moment, and what's been called into play, where you're being invited to participate right now, is to let more of who you are reach everyone else. And so I really think as Saturn goes direct on the 3rd, it's like you are back in the room. You're back in the room with everyone. Everyone wants to hear your jokes. Everyone wants to hear your wisecracks, your unique perspective. And let's take it from there. Things are going to work out, and there's some massive projects coming. So there you go. Venus connecting with your South Node in the 10th house is just a reminder that you've been very successful in the past, and you've had these almost like runaway successes. Focus back in on them. Remember how you felt, what you were doing, who you're connected to, and see what similarities are cropping up. That will give you all the clues you need to make this very busy month work for you. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Right. Newbinette saying, my sister is a Capricorn and Thanksgiving November the 23rd is a big deal for her. Just try to do what she wants. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? As we get into that time of year when everyone has these expectations on each other. So into Aquarius then, and then into Pisces thereafter. So this is really quite an undertaking for me, I have to say. So Aquarius, now this is an interesting time. Your 10th house is absolutely activated right now. With the sun, with Mercury, with Mars going through your 10th house, it's really bringing in a sense of your importance, how far you've come in life, how you're standing in the world, what you're known for, what your reputation is, how grateful people are to have you in the world with them. This is a time where usually you're feeling the rewards and reaping the rewards of your success. Feels good. And this new moon on the 13th is there to remind you of what you're creating because of what you've already created. So it's like a rolling momentum. And it's really important that you catch it. Don't let it pass you by. So get thinking now. I'm recording this on the 23rd of October. So you've got a good couple of weeks and more. You've got like 3 weeks to get your arse in gear and to get ready to put your new moon intention out there to create more stability, to create more impact, in the field that you're involved in, but also in who you are and how people see you. This is a time for you to boost your reputation and be seen in such a more powerful way. Now, your ruler is Saturn. So some of what I said about Capricorn is applicable, only it's not that you haven't shown up in conversations. It's more that you've been a little bit puzzled, really, about your money and how things are working. So, actually, as Saturn goes direct on the 3rd, things should start to work. I think you'll get that sense of, oh, okay, I understand how I need to do my accounts now. I understand that I need to bring this in. And it's almost like whatever fear you've had of getting going is abated, almost like you've been fearful about doing your money and fearful about working through your accounts. And so you just have chosen not to do them. You focused on what you like doing rather than what you needed to. Now it's time to pull your finger out and to get pen to paper, get in that spreadsheet, sort it out, or get the right people to do it for you. You've also got Uranus, your other ruler, that's been going through the 4th house. And it's retrograde this month. It will start going direct soon, but not in November. So you've had like house and money things going on for quite some time. You know, these are the phases that we all go through, according to our star signs. What is unique right now for you is that whatever is going on in terms of your money and in your home, it hasn't stopped you from being perceived as greater than you may feel in yourself. It's almost like life has raised you up a little bit higher than you're expecting, and you've got a chance now to put down some roots and almost stabilize it. So I'm seeing it a bit like you're a floating ship, and all of a sudden there was a good gust of wind and some good waves, and you've moved a lot further than you're ready to. But there's nothing apart from the waves that are holding you up, and apart from the woodwork in your boat, there's nothing really stabilizing you, and it feels a little bit shaky. And so I really see that November for you is about building in some supports. It's almost like you could sail to shore and get an upgrade, get a better anchor, and get a better rudder and this, that, and the other. So it's almost like this is a time for you to invest in your own success. So use the 13th to do just that. Now, on the 22nd, as the sun goes into Sagittarius, it's marking a time when your collaboration energy is going to be really quite high. And so I would absolutely recommend that you, in your plan to get a stronger rudder and a better anchor and to make your presence a lot more visible, that you put something in to have some fun with new contacts. Like, fun is the real key, because unless you're having fun, like it's like your mojo is damaged when you're not having fun. So fun is the key. Find your most fun collaborators. Find the thing that feels easy. Find the thing that feels adventurous. Find the thing that feels expanded, and that's your clue that you're on the right track. Now, in terms of the full moon, where it's happening in the 5th house isn't particularly difficult. If you're single, it could really ignite a passion. It could really bring somebody into your life. If you've got children, it could bring in a little bit of tension with your children, but it could also bring in a whole heap of fun. If you are a creative person and you are absolutely in the throes of creating some magic, then this full moon time is going to be doing that for you. So really, for you, the tension between the full moon, between the moon and the sun, that most people pick up on, is a lot easier to manage across the 5th and the 11th house. What I would say is, if you have in-laws or step relations, that could be a potential area that could get sort of impacted, because where you are possibly as a step parent or as an in-law to somebody is likely to get a little bit inflamed by almost like a childish reaction to things. So I would watch out for that. But ultimately, it feels fairly benign and actually quite creative. If you could have more support at the moment, it is in creating the new image for you. So, like, you might be floating, you might be doing quite well, but what's really going on still, and will be for quite some time, is that sense of, who am I, what am I about, and which direction am I going in? So I would absolutely recommend that you get coaching or mentoring, that you speak to somebody whose advice you really, really respect and say, look, this is where I think I'm going. These are my strengths. These appear to be my weaknesses. This is kind of where I'm heading, but I can see that there's this huge bloody great gap between here and there. And I'm not quite sure how to navigate that. It's really important that you, consider this gap. And you will be able to backfill it, and it is quite a dramatic time. Pluto crossing this area is showing that your life is going through some really big changes, but it's ultimately going to bring you a much greater sense of who you are. Last thing that I would say, in particular in the last week of November, is just to remember that ultimately you're on a great adventure, and the most important thing is that you have a great life. So irrespective of how high you're floating and how far away from shore you're floating, and what kind of resistances you've had to money and being stable, and what confusion you might have had about who am I and where am I going, ultimately what sort of tops all of that is that you are on an adventure and you have this amazing ability to create something really quite phenomenal. So tap in and tune in to the thing that makes you exceptional, outstanding, and magnificent, and you can't go too wrong. So there you go, Aquarius. I'm on now to my last one, which is Pisces. And then I'll be into a coaching call with somebody straight after. I'm really sailing a little bit close to the wind there. But anyway, Pisces, thank you everyone that's joined me so far and still here. And if you are listening in later, I hope this is helpful. So if you've got Pisces, Ascendant or Sun, this is quite an interesting time for you. In as much as the energies right now that are coming up and presenting throughout November are bringing you a greater sense of beliefs, spirituality, a sense of the mystical, a sense of the divine, a sense that maybe there is a reason for most things. So I do think that in many respects, you are being rewarded for being quite open-minded, and rewarded for being open, but having the ability to see different sides. It's not always a blessing, but I think right now it really is. The new moon on the 13th is happening in such a way that it's highlighting, your greatest spiritual version of yourself, your greatest religion, your greatest adventure, your greatest philosophy. It's like you're being upgraded. It's like you're downloaded into, I don't know, it's like your operating system that not just sees the facts, but sees the context of things. It's like everything is fitting together, and you're getting this amazing big picture for the world that you're living in, and also for the life that you're leading. So, if I was in your shoes right now, Pisces, and I'm recording this on the 23rd of October, I would get writing now. I would start dreaming big. I mentioned to the Scorpios that they should be really journaling right now. I think you guys should be journaling right now. This is a great time for you to get absolutely crystal clear about what would make you fly and what's not making you fly right now. Like, what's not lighting you up. I mean, lighting you up is surely the biggest thing that could possibly occur. So the new moon is there as a like as a shining star. It's like it's there to light you up. It's there to help signpost that it's time for you to take on a bit of a new direction, a new trajectory, a new way to see life. Now, around the 22nd, when the sun goes into the sign of Sagittarius, everything that you've built for yourself in terms of this new perspective that might be having repercussions that are really quite magnificent, it's going to be propelling you into a new version of yourself. It's going to be propelling you into a new way to be, a new way to think, a new way to be appreciated, a new way to stand in the world. It's like it's showing you how to be a different kind of grown-up. It's almost as if you've had a top coach or mentor by your side, feeding into your unconscious mind. And then from the 22nd, it feels, boom, there I am, this new potential, this new possibility for me. That's not bad, right? I'm quite excited for you. Now, on the 27th, the day of the full moon in Gemini, that is absolutely activating everything at home. So it feels very much like this tension between the home that you know and all of the programming and behaviors that have been very carefully administered into your mind-body system since birth. It feels like this tension between the you that was you up until this great big insight, and then this new you that is facing into the future. So it's a little bit of tension there, and that tension can be made worse if you're in the company of people that are expecting you to be one thing, or it can be made easier because you choose to spend the full moon in full wonder on a mountainside somewhere, or by a beautiful lake, or what I would choose to do if I was in your shoes, Pisces, is to go somewhere really inspiring from the 22nd to the 27th and just enjoy yourself, and know full well that at some point you'll be really clear about who you are, and you'll be able to explain very carefully and beautifully and with great articulation why you are changing, and why, or how your journey has evolved, that you're changing so much right now in such a way that people can get it. Now, one thing that I think could really help you, where you do need a bit more support or could benefit from support, is to have a sense of adventure and possibility about it. I think in the recent past, with Saturn having gone through your 12th house, you've probably felt a little bit depressed, which is why right now it feels like such a godsend that you're feeling lighter and that your perspective has shifted and expanded. I mean, that's a gift, a real gift. However, in recent times with the depression, and that feeling of doubt, and that feeling that you might have been a bit tired and maybe not fit for or not up to the job of recreating your possibility, I think you could do with a little bit of support to help your thoughts, help all the great thoughts embed themselves and get stronger, and then help any disabling thoughts that you might have to pick them out and clear them up. It's like, if you needed any support right now, it's to get a clearer brain so that you've got more space to grow into. It's very, very positive. Last thing I would say is let go of any blame, shame, guilt, and anger. Anywhere where you're not being fully yourself, allow it to go, because absolutely you are fully worthy to inhabit the space you're in. You're fully worthy. You're fully paid up member of your family clan. You don't need to do anything to get their attention. You absolutely deserve to be here. And there is probably somebody in your distant past, or hopefully not so distant past, who can vouch for you, that has made you feel secure, that you've enjoyed a really close bond with. And if you can remember just how worthy you felt in their company, I think you'll get some great insights and something that will help you to move forwards and beyond. Last thought then is that this is actually a time of new space and new possibility. Out of all of the signs, as I'm looking at this, I'm feeling most excited about your Ascendant, Pisces. I really am. So I'm going to leave that there. Hope you have a great month ahead, and I hope to check in with you real soon. Yeah, so there you go. Right, I am absolutely finished now. Newbienet is saying, my ascendant's in Pisces, my sun is in Sag. Well, this is a really big time for you then, Newbienet. It really is. Now, Sarah, I did say at the end I was going to have a look at the difference between looking at the ascendant and also looking at the sun. And I have to say, apart from being exhausted, I'm going to pick this up with you offline, and I might even make a show of it. And the reason being is I've got a call in 3 minutes, and I'd like to run off and prepare for it. So anyway, thank you to everybody that's joined me for this live show, where I've gone through all the star signs in 1 hour and 45 minutes to talk about November. For the more specific energies of a week by week breakdown, please do look at the November update, which is also on the November playlist. If I can be of any help at all in the near future, then please do just give me a shout. It's louisatannermunson@gmail.com, or you could also go to feelgoodastrology.com. I think November is an insanely busy month, and I wish you peace and happiness and a feeling of well-being throughout the whole time. So thank you once again for your attention, for your support.